3 weeks to learn a language? Challenge accepted. Which language? Korean. Category 4 according to the US Defense Institute, if we can trust them. Why am I trying to learn Korean in 3 weeks? Well, the girlfriend and I have recently booked a trip to South Korea for 1 week. We're going to go to Seoul and Busan. This is not my first time to Korea. Other than my transfer through Korea last year, I actually lived in Busan for 1 year way back many years ago. As a result, I actually studied Korean a little bit when I was there. However, I did not continue with studying Korean afterwards because, well, life took me on another path. All that being said, I'm not unfamiliar with the language, and I remember putting in a little bit of time at least to gain a familiarity with the Korean alphabet, Hangul, and also some of the sounds that the language has. So is 3 weeks too much to ask? Well, let's put this in perspective. Number one, I'm not expecting to become fluent. I don't think I'm going to be conversing about politics or philosophy within the next 3 weeks. Just not going to happen. Number two, since I am familiar with the sounds of the language, my greatest challenge is going to be able to pronounce things as understandable, comprehensible Korean, and not a Chinesified Korean version. And number three, there's only so much I'm going to need to know anyway. Since I'm traveling with my girlfriend, I might actually have to translate some things into Chinese. Not from Korean, but from English. So all that being said and done, I kind of want to know just how much Korean I can actually learn within the next 3 weeks. Now, I did already have one class, but other than that, I haven't really spent very much time with the language. To be honest, all I really remember from the language is 안녕하세요, 만나서 반갑습니다, 얼마예요, how much, and 없다. I remember 없다. Why? Why do I remember 없다? I have no idea. And that's it. It's very, very little. Oh, and the number 18 is bad. So shipbal can also be shipba and shipbal. Shipba, ship. Okay, I should probably stop saying that. The one great thing about the Korean language is that it is actually quite structured. Relative to Japanese or Chinese, which are two of the other cultures and languages in the region, Korean has an alphabet that you can learn very easily and then be able to read. And I think reading is very important to building your vocabulary. I'm not alone on this one. Unlike Chinese or Japanese, where you have to learn a lot of characters, and there are so many characters that without knowing at least a substantial number of them, it makes reading very difficult. Now, Japanese does have the hiragana or katakana, the vowels and the consonants as well. Chinese doesn't. Korean actually has a relatively simple or easy to access alphabet. It only consists of about 24 characters total. That is 14 consonants and 10 vowels. As a result, once you learn these things and the combinations that they create, it gets a little bit easier to pronounce them. However, even though you can pronounce a word, doesn't mean you're going to know what it means. And, as we all know, when you learn some words, people respond to you. You won't know what they're saying because your vocabulary might not have expanded to those words just yet. The neat thing about the Hangul, that is the Korean alphabet, it's actually based on the placement of your tongue within the mouth. This was thought up by the guy Sejong the Great, who was active around the late 1300s to early 1400s, came up with the idea that the Koreans should use Hangul, which was the native phonetic writing system in Korea at that time. Before that, they were actually using the Chinese characters, but they're kind of like, there's a lot of characters to learn. Can we make this a little bit easier for us? And they did. Now, I'm told that if I do go to Korea and I speak some Chinese, some of the older people might actually know Chinese. Not only that, nowadays, the level of English around the country has actually improved substantially since I was there 15 years ago. So there's not a real dire need to know Korean just yet, or at least not to a high level. Maybe some travel, speak, polite methods of talking to people, asking for certain things, but by no means am I going to expect myself to know, to be completely proficient and fluent in the language in 3 weeks. 21 days? Good luck. So what's the method of attack? Well, there are a few ways. Number one, italki. I've talked about it before. I think it's a great application. My affiliate code's below. And through italki, I'm going to book a couple of classes with teachers. Now, I've usually been very against booking introductory or beginning classes with teachers, figuring that's actually a waste of money because I should be spending that time developing that early language skill on my own. That is, reading the alphabet, how you say hi, goodbye, thank you, etc. However, as the days fly by and my work seems to keep on going, I do find it very difficult sometimes to sit down and do the basics. So it'd be kind of nice to have a block of time where I just sit and focus. And if I have to pay someone to do that, a teacher, then I guess that's going to be the way I got to do it. Not only that, some of the teachers are rather affordable, about 50 RMB or about $10 Canadian. And that would mean I can buy a few lessons over the next 21 days to get me prepared speaking the language to native Korean speakers. Number 2, extensive listening. Korean podcasts used to be very rare. At least they used to be a little bit more difficult to access if you weren't in the country. Nowadays, with the ubiquity of YouTube and Apple Podcasts, it's a lot easier to access this information online. DD Podcast is one girl I'm following right now on YouTube. She's done some podcasts as well. There are others, of course, but that was the one that sort of the YouTube algorithm introduced me to. However, her podcast is still too high level, and this is something about comprehensible input that we have to remember. In order for you to use extensive listening as comprehensible input, you have to understand what's being said. So how am I going to deal with this? Well, there are some children's stories you can find on YouTube as well. Not only that, I still have to deal with the basics of the language as well. Hello, goodbye, politeness, numbers, basic directions, basic places that I would be in, airport, subway, bus, etc. So we've got italki, we've got YouTube, we've got podcasts. That's kind of the same, I guess. And number 3, I want to try to learn this in my sleep. I'm already studying Mandarin Chinese and a bit of Russian, and I think at this point I'm going to have to block off those for now, or at least minimize the amount of time that I spend on those languages and instead focus on Korean. Again, this is a 3-week experiment. It's not meant to make me fluent or absolutely proficient. It's just meant as an exercise to see how much I can learn. Not only that, I kind of want to remind myself what it's like not only to have to learn a language again, but to be in a country where I don't speak the language. And not like I can depend on English being the language of communication. It might just not happen. But even with that, I know it's nice to know some phrases or some words just to be able to communicate my own needs so the other person doesn't feel so awkward talking to me, if that sort of makes sense. So what do I mean by learning in my sleep? Well, I got this idea from the Korean podcasts that said that you can learn or listen to Korean while you sleep. And I got thinking, well, if I automated the opening of a calendar event on my Mac system to start playing a Korean podcast at 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm fast asleep, if I did that for, an hour and a half, 2 hours, you could just repeat the same podcast as well. Would it work? So this is something else. This is going to be something new that I try to integrate into my studies for learning Korean. Will I make this a regular feature of my language studies? I don't know about that. Finally, I don't know if I'm going to use Duolingo for this one. That bird's looking a little bit tired these days, but I think I'm going to use an app called Lingo Deer. Now, I've heard about this before, and I was using it a little bit already, and it seems to be okay. It doesn't have any fluffy animations that are sort of distracting. It's not overly dressed up. You click on a subject that you want to study, you press the sentence, and it says the word. You can even set it to repeat multiple times until you get your pronunciation correct. So again, italki, YouTube, podcasts, learning at night, Lingo Deer, 3 weeks to Korean fluency. No, 3 weeks to Korean ability. Let's see how much I can get done in the next 21 days. All right, thank you very much, folks, for watching. I appreciate it. If you like this button, please press that thumbs up. It'll encourage me to keep on making some more longer form videos. And of course, if you like this content and want some more, hit that subscribe button. And if there's anything I can do to help you out with your language studies, get in touch. I'd be happy to talk. Have a good one. Bye-bye.